the shepherd who broke the Alpha's world. They called her broken, defective, a wolf who couldn't even shift properly. But when hundreds of orphan pups began dying across the northern territories, and every alpha, every healer, every warrior failed to save them, it was the girl they threw away who held the answer. This is the story of Elara Voss, the outcast who became the only hope for a crumbling wolf nation, a woman who proved that the greatest power isn't dominance, it's connection. If you love stories of underdogs rising, of compassion defeating cruelty, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to know where you're watching from. Let's get started. The tavern smelled like stale beer and desperation. Elara Voss wiped down the counter for the third time that hour, her hands moving automatically while her mind wandered. The Broken Antler wasn't the worst establishment in Greymark. That honor belonged to the gambling den 2 streets over. But it wasn't far off. Rough men drank here. Drifters. The kind of people who asked no questions because they didn't want any asked in return. She preferred it that way. "Another round, girl!" A bearded man slammed his empty mug on the bar, foam still clinging to his mustache. Elara reached for the tap without meeting his eyes. "That's your 4th, Gregor. You sure?" "Don't tell me what I can handle." His words slurred together. "You're here to pour, not lecture." She filled his mug and slid it across the scarred wood. He tossed a few copper coins her direction, too short of what he owed, like always, and staggered back to his table. Elara pocketed the coins anyway. Fighting over 2 coppers wasn't worth the trouble. The door creaked open, bringing in a gust of late autumn wind. She glanced up, then immediately down again. Marcus Thane, one of the pack's enforcers. He didn't come here often, which meant this wasn't a social visit. He surveyed the room with the casual arrogance of someone used to being obeyed, then his gaze landed on Elara. "Voss? Marcus?" She kept wiping the counter. "Still hiding in this dump?" He approached the bar, boots heavy on the warped floorboards. "Thought you might have moved on by now, found some place that actually wants you." "I'm employed. That's more than some can say." His smile was all teeth. "Employed. Right. Serving drinks to human trash because no pack will take you." He leaned closer. "How's it feel knowing you'll never be one of us? Never run with a real pack? Never have a mate bond?" Alara's hand tightened on the rag. She'd heard worse. Survived worse. But Marcus had a gift for finding the exact words that still stung. "I manage," she said quietly. "That's what you call it?" He laughed. "Managing. Gods, you really are pathetic. Can't even shift without looking like a half-drowned mutt." Something cracked inside her. Not broke. Elara had been broken before, and she'd learned broken things could be rebuilt. This was different. This was the moment the rebuilt thing decided it was done being tested. She looked up, meeting his eyes directly for the first time. "Why are you here, Marcus?" "Because if it's just to remind me I'm not welcome in the Greymark pack, consider the message delivered. Again, for the 100th time." His amusement faded. "Watch your tone." "Or what? You'll have me exiled? Already done. You'll tell everyone I'm defective? They already know." She set down the rag. "You can't take anything from me that you haven't already taken. So unless you're here to order a drink, there's the door." For a moment, genuine surprise crossed his face. Then anger. His hand moved to his belt, where she knew he kept a silver-edged knife, and Alara's heart kicked into overdrive. But he didn't draw it. Instead, he smiled slowly. "You've got teeth now. Interesting." He straightened. "Enjoy your new backbone while it lasts, Voss. This town's going to eat you alive one way or another." He left without ordering anything. Alara's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the counter, breathing slowly through her nose until the tremor stopped. The other patrons had gone quiet during the exchange, watching with the morbid fascination people reserved for public humiliation. She picked up the rag again and went back to work. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of poured drinks and muttered orders. When the last customer finally stumbled out near midnight, Elara locked the door and climbed the narrow stairs to her room above the tavern. Calling it a room was generous. It was barely large enough for a bed, a small table, and the battered trunk that held everything she owned. But it was hers. She'd paid for it with her own wages, answered to no one about it, and that mattered more than comfort. She lit a single candle and collapsed onto the bed without bothering to change. That's when she heard it, a soft whimper, coming from the corner behind the trunk. Alara sat up, exhaustion forgotten. She knew that sound. She'd been hearing it for 3 weeks now. "Hey," she whispered. "It's okay. I'm here." Slowly, carefully, she moved the trunk aside. 6 pairs of eyes stared back at her from the shadows. Wolf pups, none older than 8 weeks. Orphans she'd found in various states of distress over the past month, abandoned at the forest edge, left in alleys, one even tossed in a grain sack near the town well. No one wanted them. Orphaned pups without a pack were considered bad luck at best, cursed at worst. Most people wouldn't even touch them. Alara had taken them all. The smallest one, a gray female she'd named Ash, crept forward on unsteady legs and nuzzled Alara's hand. "There you are, brave girl." Alara scooped her up, and the pup immediately curled into her chest. The others followed, climbing over each other to reach her. Within seconds, she was covered in warm, wiggling bodies. This was why she worked so hard, why she endured Marcus's cruelty and Gregor's stinginess and the endless grind of tavern life. These pups needed her, and if she was honest, really honest, she needed them too. "Did you miss me?" she murmured, scratching behind Ash's ears. "I wasn't gone that long." A reddish-brown male, Ember, yipped and pawed at her sleeve. Okay. Dinner first, then cuddles." She'd stashed meat scraps from the tavern kitchen in a cloth bundle. Not much, but enough. She divided it among them, watching as they tore into the food with single-minded intensity. They were growing, getting stronger. Ash could almost shift now. Alara had seen the shimmer around her edges last week, the first sign of the transformation taking hold. Pride swelled in her chest. She'd done this, taken these abandoned, unwanted creatures and given them a chance. Just like someone should have done for her. Alara had been 17 when her pack declared her defective. The shift had always come hard for her, slow, painful, incomplete. While other wolves transformed in seconds, fluid and powerful, Alara's shift took minutes. And even then, her wolf form was smaller than it should be. Weaker. The pack elders had debated for weeks. Some argued she could still contribute. Others said she was a liability, proof of bad bloodlines that would weaken future generations. Her own father had cast the deciding vote. "She's not pack," he'd said, standing before the assembled wolves with his face carved from stone. "She never will be. We release her." Release. Such a polite word for abandonment. They'd let her keep the clothes on her back and given her until sunrise to leave pack territory. Her mother had cried but said nothing. Her younger brother had hugged her fiercely and whispered that it wasn't fair. Fair didn't matter in pack law. Alara had walked into the human town of Greymark with nothing and built a life from scratch. It hadn't been easy. It still wasn't easy. But it was hers. She'd promised herself she'd never let anyone make her feel worthless again. Watching the pups eat now, she felt that promise solidify into something harder, stronger. These pups would never know rejection, not while she drew breath. Ash finished eating and climbed into Alara's lap, licking her chin. The others piled on top, creating a warm, sleepy heap. Alara stroked their soft fur, exhaustion catching up with her. She should feed herself, should wash, should do a dozen things. Instead, she let herself sink into the pile of pups and closed her eyes. She woke to hammering on the door. Alara jolted upright, scattering drowsy pups in every direction. Weak morning light filtered through the cracked window. She'd slept in her clothes again. The hammering came again, harder. "Voss, open up!" That wasn't Marcus's voice. This one was rougher, older. Alara scrambled up, shoving the pups gently toward the corner. "Stay quiet," she hissed. "Don't make a sound." She cracked the door open. 3 men stood in the narrow hallway. The one in front was built like a barrel, with gray streaking his dark beard and scars crisscrossing both arms. Behind him stood 2 younger wolves, their posture screaming enforcer, pack business. Alara's stomach dropped. "Can I help you?" she managed. The bearded man looked her up and down with cold assessment. "Alara Voss, former member of Greymark Pack. Former is right. I don't have ties here anymore. That's about to change." He pushed past her into the room before she could protest. The 2 enforcers followed. One wrinkled his nose at the smell. The pups, probably. They'd need another cleaning soon. "What is this?" Alara demanded, anger overriding fear. "You can't just—" We can do whatever we want. The bearded man turned to face her. Name's Garrett. I'm Beta to the Blackthorn Pack, Northern Territories. Blackthorn. Even Alara, isolated as she was, knew that name. The Blackthorn Pack controlled vast territory in the mountain regions, old bloodlines, powerful alphas, and they were in her room. I don't understand, she said carefully. What does the Blackthorn Pack want with me? Garrett's expression didn't soften. You've been taking in orphan pups. It wasn't a question. Alara's mind raced. How did they know? She'd been so careful keeping the pups hidden, only taking them out in the dead of night when, behind her, Ember whimpered. Garrett's gaze flicks to the corner. How many? That's none of your business. It is now. He gestured to one of his enforcers. Check. Don't touch them. Alara moved to block the way, but the second enforcer caught her arm. Easy, Garrett said. We're not here to hurt them. The first enforcer crouched by the pile of pups. They'd huddled together, eyes wide with fear. He counted silently, then looked back at Garrett. 6. Ranging from 4 to 8 weeks old, looks like. Garrett nodded slowly. And they're all alive, healthy. What did you expect? Alara jerked free of the enforcer's grip. I take care of them. Orphaned pups don't survive without a pack. Garrett moved closer, studying her with unnerving intensity. The mortality rate is over 80% in the first month, yet you have 6, all thriving. How? I feed them, keep them warm, give them attention. Alara's voice shook with anger. Revolutionary concepts, I know. Don't get smart. But something shifted in Garrett's expression, almost like respect? What you've done shouldn't be possible. Pups that young need pack bonds, wolf energy. Without it, they fade. But yours aren't fading. Maybe they're stronger than you think. Or maybe you're doing something no one else can. Garrett turned to his enforcers. Get them ready for transport. Transport? Alara's blood turned to ice. No, absolutely not. These pups are coming north with us, Garrett interrupted. And so are you. Like hell I am. You don't have a choice. This is kidnapping, Garrett's patience snapped. This is survival. We have over 300 orphaned pups dying in our territory right now. 300. Every healer we've got, every dominant wolf, every strategy the elders can come up with, nothing works. They just keep fading. His voice dropped. You're the only person we've found who can keep them alive. So yes, you're coming north, because those pups need you more than this shithole tavern does. The words hit like a physical blow. 300 pups, dying. Alara sank onto the bed, mind reeling. She thought of Ash, Ember, the others, how fragile they'd been when she found them, how close to death. She'd saved 6 through sheer stubborn will and luck. But 300? I'm not a healer, she whispered. I'm not even a proper wolf. I can barely shift. What makes you think the Alpha King thinks you can do it? Garrett's tone left no room for argument. And when the Alpha King says jump, you don't ask how high, you just jump. The Alpha King. Alara looked up sharply. Ronan Blackthorn is involved in this? It was his idea to find you. Garrett crossed his arms. He's been searching for months, following rumors of a shepherd, someone who could call lost pups back from the edge. Every lead went nowhere until we heard about a defective wolf in Greymark hoarding orphans in a tavern attic. The description stung, but Alara ignored it. And if I refuse, then 300 pups die. Garrett's expression was granite. Their blood will be on your hands. Can you live with that? It was emotional blackmail, pure and simple. It was also working. Alara looked at her pups, at Ash, who trusted her completely, at Ember, who was finally starting to play, at the others, who'd found safety in this cramped, awful little room because she'd given them a chance. How could she refuse to help others like them? But the fear was overwhelming. Going north meant leaving the only security she'd built, meant putting herself in the hands of a pack that could destroy her, meant facing possible failure on a massive scale, meant trusting people who had no reason to value her. How long? She asked quietly. As long as it takes. And after? After you're free to go. Garrett uncrossed his arms. The Alpha King gives his word. Help save the pups, and you'll be released with enough gold to start over anywhere you choose. Gold, freedom, a real future, and 300 dying pups who needed her. Alara stood up slowly. I want it in writing, a contract, payment terms, timeline, guarantee of safety for me and my pups. Garrett almost smiled. Smart. You'll get it. And I need to say goodbye to my employer. I'm not disappearing without explanation. You have 1 hour. It wasn't enough time. It would never be enough time, but Alara nodded anyway. The journey north began that afternoon. Garrett had provided a wagon for the pups and supplies. Alara sat in the back with them, watching Greymark disappear behind a curtain of dust and distance. She'd given notice to the tavern owner, a gruff man named Barlow, who'd been surprisingly decent about the whole thing. He'd even paid her a week's wages she wasn't owed. You're a good worker, Voss, he'd said, counting out the coins. Don't let them northern wolves push you around. She'd promised to try. Now, bumping along a rough road with 6 nervous pups and 3 stone-faced enforcers, Alara wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. The landscape changed as they traveled. Greymark's scrubby plains gave way to rolling hills, then dense forest. The air grew colder, sharper. They stopped at a way station the first night. Garrett arranged for a private room, which Alara appreciated more than she'd admit. The pups were restless in the unfamiliar space, whining and pawing at the door. It's okay, she murmured, lying down with them. I know it's scary, but we're together. That's what matters. Ash pressed against her chest, shivering despite the warmth. You're so brave, Alara whispered. All of you, the bravest pups I've ever known. She didn't sleep much that night. They reached Blackthorn territory on the 5th day. Alara knew the moment they crossed the border. The forest grew darker, older. Massive pines blocked out most of the sunlight, creating a perpetual twilight. The scent of wolf was everywhere, territorial markers, warning signs for outsiders. This was true packland, ancient and powerful. The wagon rolled through an enormous gate carved with wolves mid-hunt. Guards watched from wooden towers, their eyes tracking the wagon's progress. Then the compound came into view. Alara had expected a village, maybe a cluster of cabins. What she saw was a fortress. Stone buildings sprawled across a cleared valley surrounded by high walls, training yards, storage houses, a great hall that could have held 100 wolves. This wasn't just a pack. This was a nation. Welcome to Blackthorn Hold, Garrett said from horseback beside the wagon. Home to the largest pack in the Northern Territories. How many wolves? Alara asked, awed despite herself. 800 at full strength. Right now? He grimaced. Less than 600. The rest are pups who can't fight, can't hunt, can't contribute. 300 pups. The number hadn't seemed real before, it was real now. The wagon stopped in front of a long, low building. Garrett dismounted. This is the healing house. The pups are inside. Alara's throat tightened. All of them? All that are left. He helped her down from the wagon. The enforcers began unloading her supplies and the 6 pups, who clung to Alara nervously. Before we go in, Garrett said quietly, you need to understand what you're about to see. These pups have been through hell. Most lost their parents in border raids. Some were abandoned when smaller packs collapsed. A few we found wandering alone in the forest. He met her eyes. They're alive, but barely. Don't expect them to look like your pups. Alara steeled herself. I understand. She didn't. Garrett opened the door to the healing house, and the smell hit her first. Sickness, despair, the sour tang of bodies shutting down. Then she saw them. Row after row of small pallets lined the walls. On each one, a pup lay motionless. Some were skeletal, ribs showing through dull fur. Others had open sores. Many didn't even raise their heads when the door opened. Healers moved between the pallets, offering water, checking wounds. But their faces were hollow, defeated. Dear gods, Alara breathed, we're losing 2 or 3 every day. A woman approached, elderly, with white hair and kind eyes that held oceans of grief. I'm Mira, head healer. You must be the shepherd. I'm not, Alara started, then stopped. What was she? I'm Alara. I've kept some pups alive, that's all. That's more than we've managed. Mira gestured to the room. We've tried everything. Forced bonding rituals. Energy transfers from dominant wolves, herbal treatments. Nothing works. They just slip away. Alara walked deeper into the room, her own pups following close. Ash whimpered at the sight of so many sick wolves. On a pallet near the center, a small black pup lay with eyes open but unseeing. Its breathing was shallow, labored. Without thinking, Alara knelt beside it. "Hey there," she said softly. "I'm Alara. I'm here to help." The pup didn't respond. Alara reached out slowly, letting her hand hover near its head. No reaction. She touched it gently, stroking behind its ears, still nothing. But she kept talking, kept touching, kept being present. "You've been through something terrible, haven't you?" she murmured. "Lost someone important. It hurts. I know it hurts." The pup's ear twitched, barely noticeable, but Alara noticed. "That's right," she continued. "You can hear me. You're still in there." She kept her voice low, soothing. "You don't have to fight right now. You don't have to be strong. You can just be. I'll stay with you." Behind her, she heard Mira's sharp intake of breath. The black pup's eyes focused, just for a second. Then it closed them and sighed, a deep, releasing sound. When it opened them again, there was something different, a tiny spark of awareness. "There you are," Alara whispered. The pup's tail moved, the barest hint of a wag. Mira made a strangled sound. "That's Thorn. He hasn't responded to anyone in 2 weeks. We thought we'd lost him." Alara kept her attention on the pup. "Hi, Thorn. Nice to meet you." His tail wagged again, stronger this time. Ash crept forward and nuzzled Thorn's face. He turned his head, the first significant movement, and sniffed her back. "Good," Alara said, relief flooding through her. "That's so good." She looked up at Mira. "Do you have food? Something easy to digest?" "Bone broth. We've been trying to get him to take it for days." "Bring it here." Mira hurried away. Garrett stood in the doorway, watching with an expression Alara couldn't read. When Mira returned with a small bowl of warm broth, Alara dipped her fingers in it and held them near Thorn's mouth. "Just a taste," she coaxed. "You don't have to drink much, but your body needs fuel." Thorn licked her fingers hesitantly, then again, more eagerly. Within minutes, he was lapping broth directly from the bowl. The other healers had gathered now, watching in stunned silence. "How did you do that?" one of them asked. "I didn't do anything." Alara stroked Thorn's head as he ate. "I just listened." "Listened to what?" "To what he needed." She looked around at the rows of dying pups. "They're not sick, not really. They're grieving. They've lost everything. Parents, pack, safety. We keep trying to force them to be okay, to fight, to survive. But they can't. Not yet." She met Mira's eyes. "First, we have to let them mourn." The room was absolutely silent. Then Garrett spoke from the doorway. "The Alpha King will want to meet you, tonight." Alara's stomach clenched. She'd known this moment was coming, had been dreading it since Garrett first showed up at her door, meeting the most powerful Alpha in the Northern Territories. The man who'd sent wolves to drag her from her home, who expected her to save hundreds of lives. No pressure. "Fine," she said, voice steadier than she felt. "But I'm staying with Thorn until he finishes eating." Garrett nodded slowly. "Understood." Alara turned back to the pup, forcing her hands not to shake. She'd come too far to fall apart now. The Alpha King's hall smelled like smoke and leather and something older. Power, maybe? Or just the weight of too many decisions made in one place. Alara stood at the entrance with Garrett beside her, trying not to look as terrified as she felt. The great hall was massive, lit by torches that cast jumping shadows across stone walls carved with generations of pack history. Wolves in every stage of transformation, battles won and lost, a legacy carved in rock. And at the far end, seated in a chair that wasn't quite a throne, but might as well have been, sat Ronan Blackthorn. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 30, with dark hair that fell past his shoulders and eyes the color of winter ice. Scars marked his arms, some old, some fresh. He wore simple clothes, no crown or jewelry, but he didn't need ornamentation. Authority rolled off him like heat. "The shepherd," he said. His voice was rough, like he'd spent years shouting orders over battle noise. "Just Alara," she corrected before she could stop herself. Garrett tensed beside her. You didn't correct an Alpha King, but Ronan's mouth quirked. Just Alara, the woman who keeps orphaned pups alive through sheer stubbornness. Is that what Garrett told you? Garrett told me you had 6 thriving pups in a room the size of a closet, that they respond to you, trust you, that you've done what our best healers couldn't. Ronan leaned forward. What I want to know is how. I don't know how, Alara admitted. I just do what feels right, which is sit with them, talk to them, let them grieve. She met his stare, refusing to look away. Your healers are trying to force them to survive, but you can't force healing. You have to allow it. Silence stretched between them. Then Ronan stood. He was tall, over 6 feet, and when he moved, every wolf in the room tracked him. Pack instinct, alpha recognition. He walked down the length of the hall until he stood directly in front of Alara. You understand these pups aren't just orphans, he said quietly. They're survivors of pack collapses, border wars, massacres. Some watched their parents die. Others were abandoned when food ran short. His jaw tightened. They've seen things no pup should see, lived through horrors that would break full-grown wolves. I know. Do you? His eyes searched hers. Because if you can't handle that, if you break down or give up halfway through, more pups die. I need to know you're strong enough. Anger flared in Alara's chest. You want to talk about strength? I was declared defective and exiled from my own pack at 17. I built a life from nothing in a town that didn't want me. I've survived poverty, isolation, and being told every single day that I'm worthless. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. So don't talk to me about strength. I've earned every scrap of it I have. The hall was dead silent. Ronan studied her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiled. Good. You'll need that fire. He turned to address the room. Alara Voss has my permission to work with the orphaned pups. She answers directly to me. Anyone who interferes answers to me as well. His tone made it clear what that meant. Garrett, assign her quarters. Give her whatever resources she needs. Yes, Alpha. Ronan looked back at Alara. Save my pups, and you'll have anything you want. Fail. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Bashin. Her quarters were small but clean, a vast improvement over the tavern room. Someone had already brought her supplies and settled her 6 pups in a corner with blankets and food. Alara collapsed onto the bed and stared at the ceiling. What the hell had she just agreed to? 300 dying pups, an Alpha King who expected miracles, an entire pack watching to see if she'd fail. The pressure was crushing. A knock interrupted her spiral. Come in, she called, sitting up. Mira entered, carrying a tray of food. Thought you might be hungry. It's been a long day. That's putting it mildly. But Alara accepted the tray gratefully. Bread, cheese, some kind of stew that smelled incredible. When had she last eaten? Yesterday. Mira sat in the room's only chair. You made quite an impression on the Alpha King. I probably shouldn't have talked back. Probably not. Mira's eyes crinkled with amusement. But he respected it. Ronan doesn't trust people who grovel. Says it means they're hiding something. Alara tore off a piece of bread. What's he like, really? Complicated. Mira was quiet for a moment. He became Alpha King at 23 when his father died in a border skirmish. Spent the first 2 years just trying to hold the territory together. Then the pup crisis started. She shook her head. He's carrying the weight of 300 lives on his shoulders, and there's no one he can share that burden with. What about a mate? Doesn't he have no mate, no bond? Mira's expression turned sad. Says he doesn't have time for it, that the pack comes first. Alara thought about the man she'd met in the hall, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he'd smiled when she'd shown spine. He was drowning, she realized, just like the pups. Tell me about them, she said. The pups. Where did they all come from? Mira's face darkened. It started about 8 months ago. Small packs in the outer territories began collapsing. Disease, starvation, attacks from rival packs. Whenever a pack fell, Ronan sent rescue teams to bring back survivors, mostly pups. We thought we could integrate them, give them new families within Blackthorn. What happened? They wouldn't bond, wouldn't shift, wouldn't eat. Mira's hands twisted in her lap. We tried everything. pairing them with nursing mothers, having dominant wolves share energy, even bringing in healers from other territories. Nothing worked. They just kept fading. How many have you lost? 87. The number fell like a stone. 87 pups we couldn't save. Alara set down her food, appetite gone. 87 deaths, and she was supposed to prevent more. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. Mira reached across and gripped her hand. Neither do I, but you brought Thorn back in less than an hour. That's more hope than we've had in months. Hope. Such a fragile, dangerous thing. She started work the next morning. The healing house was quieter than yesterday. Several pups had died overnight. The bodies had already been removed, but the empty pallets remained. Alara forced herself not to count them. Where do you want to begin? Mira asked. Alara looked around the enormous room, rows and rows of dying pups. Where did you even start with something like this? Then she saw him. A golden-furred pup in the far corner, pressed against the wall with his eyes squeezed shut. Something about his posture screamed of pain so deep it had nowhere else to go. Him, she said, pointing. Mira consulted a slate. That's Flint, found wandering alone near the eastern border 3 months ago. Won't shift, won't bond, barely eats. What happened to his pack? We don't know. He won't talk about it. Alara walked over and knelt beside the pallet. Up close, she could see how thin Flint was, how his fur had lost its shine. Hi, Flint, she said softly. My name's Alara. No response. I know you've been through something terrible. I know it hurts. She kept her voice low, steady. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to do anything, but I'm going to sit here with you for a while, okay? Still nothing. So Alara sat. Minutes passed, then an hour. The healers moved around them, tending to other pups. Mira checked on her twice, but Alara waved her off. She just sat, present, patient. Around the second hour, Flint's ear twitched. I'm still here, Alara murmured, not going anywhere. His eyes opened slightly, looked at her, then closed again. But it was something. By the third hour, Alara's legs were cramping and her back ached. She shifted position carefully, not wanting to startle him. You know what I think? She said quietly. I think you're tired. Tired of fighting, tired of hurting, tired of people expecting you to be okay when you're not. She paused. I was exiled from my pack. They told me I wasn't good enough, that I was defective. Flint's eyes opened fully this time. For a long time, I believed them, Alara continued. Thought maybe they were right. Maybe I was broken. She smiled sadly. But broken things can still be useful, still matter, still deserve to exist. Flint made a small sound, not quite a whimper, not quite a whine. Whatever happened to you, Alara said. It wasn't your fault. You survived. That's what matters. The golden pup's body shuddered. Then, slowly, he crawled toward her. Alara held perfectly still as he climbed into her lap and pressed his face against her chest. Then he started crying. Not human tears, wolves didn't cry like that, but the sounds he made were unmistakable. Grief pouring out in broken whimpers and howls. Alara wrapped her arms around him and held on. That's right, she whispered. Let it out. I've got you. He cried for 20 minutes straight. Alara's shirt was soaked with drool and tears by the time he finally quieted. But when he pulled back and looked at her, his eyes were clearer, alive. There you are, Alara said, stroking his ears. Welcome back. Behind her, she heard gasping. Turned to see every healer in the room staring. What? She asked. He shifted, Mira breathed. Alara looked down. Flint wasn't a pup anymore. He was a boy, maybe 9 years old, skinny and naked and clinging to her like a lifeline. Oh, Alara said stupidly. We've been trying to get him to shift for 3 months. Oh. Another healer said, How did you? I didn't do anything, Alara interrupted. He did it himself, but because you gave him permission to grieve, Mira said wonderingly. You gave him space to fall apart. Flint's small voice cut through the murmurs. They're all gone. Alara looked down at him. Who's gone, sweetheart? My pack, my family.
Everyone. His thin shoulders shook. The sickness came. It took my mom first, then my dad, then my sisters.
I watched them die, and I couldn't help, and I couldn't save them, and...
Stop, Alara said gently. You don't have to relive it, not right now. But they're gone. I know, and that's not fair. It's cruel and it hurts, and you wish it had never happened. She tilted his chin up. But you're still here. You survived, and that means something. What if I don't want to survive? The words were barely a whisper. Alara's heart cracked. Then we'll work on that, one day at a time, until you find a reason again. Flint buried his face in her shoulder and cried some more, but this time it felt different, like maybe, buried under all that pain, was the tiniest seed of hope. Word spread fast. By evening, every wolf in Blackthorn Hold knew that the strange defective woman had gotten 2 pups to respond. By the next morning, a crowd had gathered outside the healing house. Alara tried to ignore them as she worked. She'd identified 3 more pups who seemed ready to break through, a gray female named Storm, twin brothers called Reed and River, and a tiny black pup who refused to give his name. She sat with each one, talked to them, let them grieve. Storm took 4 hours, but finally shifted and sobbed into Alara's arms about watching her mother get torn apart by rogues. Reed and River took 6 hours together, speaking in broken whispers about the fire that destroyed their pack. The nameless pup took 3 days. But when he finally spoke, he told Alara his name was Shadow, and he'd been alone in the forest for 2 months before Blackthorn wolves found him. Each breakthrough felt like a miracle. Each one also left Alara more exhausted than the last. She was running on fumes and stubborn will by the end of the first week. Mira tried to make her rest, but how could she? There were still hundreds of pups who hadn't responded. Every moment she wasted was another pup slipping away. She was sitting with a brown pup named Cedar, trying to get him to take water, when the whispers started. She's not even doing anything, just sitting there talking. My cousin tried that. Didn't work. Alara turned to see a group of wolves watching from the doorway, pack members judging by their confident postures. Can I help you? She asked, trying to keep her voice level. A woman stepped forward. She was beautiful, tall, muscular, with auburn hair and sharp green eyes. Everything Alara wasn't. I'm Kira, she said. Lead enforcer. I wanted to see the famous shepherd for myself. There was something mocking in her tone. Alara turned back to Cedar. Well, now you've seen me. I've seen you sitting on the floor talking to a dying pup, Kira corrected. That's not healing. That's wasting time. Then leave. Excuse me? Alara stood slowly, anger finally overriding exhaustion. I said leave. You're disrupting the healing house. Your energy is aggressive, and these pups don't need that right now. Kira's eyes flashed. You don't give me orders. In this room, I do. Alpha King's orders. Alara crossed her arms. So either sit down, shut up, and be helpful, or get out. The other wolves murmured. No one talked to Kira like that. Kira's hand moved to the knife at her belt. Careful, defective. You're not pack. You don't have protection here. She has mine. Everyone turned. Ronan stood in the doorway, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Alpha King, Kira said quickly. I was just questioning my judgment? Ronan walked into the room. Undermining the one person who's actually making progress? No, Get out, Kira, and take your friends with you. Her face flushed with humiliation, but she obeyed. The other wolves scattered like leaves. When they were gone, Ronan approached Alara. You okay? Fine. She wasn't, but admitting it felt like weakness. She won't bother you again. You can't protect me from everyone who thinks I'm useless. I can try. He looked around the healing house. How many have responded so far? 12. It felt like both too many and not nearly enough. 12 more than we had a week ago. Ronan's expression softened. You're doing good work, Alara. The praise caught her off guard. She wasn't used to anyone acknowledging her efforts. Thank you, she managed. He nodded and left. Alara sank back down beside Cedar, suddenly aware of how badly her hands were shaking. The real trouble started 3 days later. Alara was working with a cluster of 5 pups who'd started responding to each other, a promising sign. They were beginning to play, something none of them had done in months. Then one of them, a reddish pup named Copper, suddenly collapsed. "Mira!" Alara shouted. The healer rushed over. She checked Copper's breathing, his heartbeat. Her face went pale. "Get the Alpha King, now!" Garrett appeared within minutes, followed by Ronan. "What happened?" Ronan demanded. "I don't know," Alara said desperately. "He was playing, and then he just—" Copper convulsed. Foam appeared at his mouth. "Poison," Mira said grimly. "Someone poisoned him." The word sent ice through Alara's veins. "What? How?" "His food, most likely." Mira was already preparing a counteragent. "If we're lucky, I caught it in time." But they weren't lucky. Copper died 20 minutes later, still in pup form, his small body going still in Alara's arms. She sat there, stunned as healers covered him with a cloth. "Who would do this?" she whispered. Ronan's expression was murderous. Someone who doesn't want the pups to survive. That doesn't make sense. These are children. It makes perfect sense if you're trying to destabilize the pack. Ronan turned to Garrett. "Lock down the healing house. No one in or out without my permission. Postguards." "Already done." Alara looked down at the cloth covering Copper's body. He'd been getting better, starting to hope again, and someone had stolen that from him. "I want to know who did this," she said quietly. "We'll find them," Ronan promised. But Alara wasn't interested in promises anymore. She started asking questions. Who had access to the healing house? Who prepared the food? Who might have a motive? The answers were unsettling. Dozens of wolves had access. Food was prepared in a communal kitchen. And as for motive, there's a faction within the pack that believes the orphaned pups are a drain on resources, Mira admitted reluctantly. They think we should focus on our own bloodlines, not outsiders. They want the pups to die? They want them sent away to fend for themselves. Mira looked sick. But if that's not an option, Alara's stomach turned. Ronan wouldn't allow that. Ronan is one wolf. He can't control everyone's beliefs. That night, Alara couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Copper's small body, kept hearing his last whimper. Around midnight, she gave up and went to check on the healing house. The guards nodded her through. Inside, most of the pups were sleeping, watched over by 2 healers on night duty. Alara walked between the pallets, checking on each pup, making sure they were breathing, safe. She reached the far corner and froze. Someone was standing in the shadows. "Who's there?" she demanded. The figure stepped into the torchlight. It was a young woman, maybe 20, with dark hair and terrified eyes. "Please," she whispered, "I need to talk to you." "Who are you?" "My name is Jessa. I work in the kitchens." She twisted her hands together. "I think I know who poisoned the food." Alara's heart slammed against her ribs. "Tell me." "It's not just one person. It's a group. They call themselves the Purebloods." Jessa's voice shook. "They believe the orphaned pups are polluting the pack, weakening it. They want them gone." "How many in this group?" "I don't know, 15, 20. They're careful, secret." "And you're telling me this because what they're doing is wrong." Tears spilled down Jessa's face. "I lost my little sister to sickness last year. These pups deserve a chance. They deserve to live." Alara studied her, looking for deception, finding only genuine distress. "Do you have proof?" she asked. "I heard them talking, planning another poisoning." Jessa pulled out a small vial from her pocket. "I took this from one of them. It's the same poison that killed Copper." Alara took the vial carefully. "Who does this belong to?" Jessa hesitated. Then, "Marcus Thane." The name hit like a punch. Marcus. The enforcer from Greymark who'd tormented her. He was here? "He transferred to Blackthorn 6 months ago," Jessa explained. "He's one of the Purebloods' leaders." Of course he was. Alara closed her fist around the vial. "I'm taking this to the Alpha King. Be careful. The Purebloods have sympathizers everywhere, even among the enforcers." "I will. Thank you, Jessa." The young woman slipped away into the darkness. Alara stood there, vial in hand, fury building in her chest. Marcus wanted these pups dead. Wanted to finish what he'd started back in Greymark, making her feel worthless and powerless. Well, she wasn't that girl anymore. She marched straight to the Alpha King's quarters and pounded on the door.
Ronan answered, shirtless and clearly just woken. Alara, what? We need to talk. Now. He saw her expression and stepped aside. Come in. His quarters were surprisingly sparse. A bed, a desk covered in maps and reports, weapons mounted on the walls. This was a man who lived for his pack, not himself. Alara held up the vial. Jessa from the kitchens gave me this. It's the poison that killed Copper. Ronan took it, examining the contents. Where did she get it? From Marcus Thane. He's part of a group called the Pure Bloods. They want the orphan pups dead. His expression turned to stone. How many in this group? She said 15 to 20, and they're planning another attack. Ronan set the vial down carefully. Marcus Thane, the enforcer who transferred from Greymark. You know him? I know of him. Good fighter, loyal to traditional pack values. Ronan's jaw tightened. Or so I thought. He's not loyal to anything except his own hatred, Alara said bitterly. He tormented me in Greymark because I couldn't shift properly, called me defective, worthless. Ronan looked at her sharply. He's the one who exiled you? He voted for it, loudly. The old wounds ached, and now he's here trying to kill the pups I'm trying to save. Not for long. Ronan crossed to his desk and pulled out a leather-bound book. Pack law is clear. Poisoning another pack member, even a pup, is punishable by exile or death. Will that stop them? If you exile Marcus, won't the others just continue? Not if I root them all out. His eyes were cold. The Pure Bloods just declared war on my authority. They're going to regret it. Alara believed him, but she also knew from experience that hatred didn't die easily. What do you need me to do? She asked. Keep working with the pups. Show everyone that they can heal, that they're worth saving. Ronan met her gaze. You're winning hearts and minds, Alara. That's more powerful than any punishment I could give. What if it's not enough? Then we'll deal with that when it comes. He moved closer. But I have faith in you. The words settled over her like a blanket, warm, unfamiliar. She wasn't used to people having faith in her. I won't let you down, she said quietly. I know. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Alara couldn't name. Then Ronan stepped back, breaking the spell. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. He was right. The next day, Ronan had Marcus Thane arrested in front of the entire pack. The enforcer fought, of course, denied everything. But when Ronan presented the vial and called Jessa forward to testify, Marcus's support crumbled. Exile Rousseau, Ronan declared. Effective immediately. You have until sunset to leave pack territory. Marcus's face twisted with rage. He looked directly at Alara. This isn't over, defective. You and your diseased pups will destroy this pack. Get him out of my sight, Ronan ordered. Guards dragged Marcus away, still screaming threats. Alara watched him go, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. But the victory was short-lived. That night, 5 more pups were poisoned, and this time, 3 of them died. Alara stared at the 3 small bodies wrapped in white cloth, her mind refusing to process what she was seeing. Dead. 3 more pups dead. The other 2 who'd been poisoned were fighting for their lives in the corner, Mira working frantically over them with herbs and counteragents that might already be too late. How? Alara's voice came out hoarse. We had guards. No one was supposed to get in. Garrett stood near the door, his face carved from granite. The poison was in his water supply. Someone contaminated the well that feeds the healing house. After Marcus was exiled? The Pure Bloods have more members than we thought. Ronan's voice was deadly calm, which somehow made it worse. This was planned, coordinated. Alara's hands clenched into fists. Then find them. Root out every single one and what? Kira appeared in the doorway, her expression smug despite the bodies. Exile half the pack? Kill our own wolves over a few orphaned mutts? Get out, Alara said. I don't think so. This is pack business. I said get out. The words came out as a roar, and suddenly Alara felt something shift inside her, something primal and fierce that had been locked away for years. Her wolf. The transformation slammed through her. It wasn't smooth or graceful. It never was. Her bones cracked and reformed, fur erupted across her skin, and pain screamed through every nerve. But for the first time in her life, Alara didn't fight it. She let the wolf come. When the shift completed, she stood on 4 legs, smaller than a full wolf should be, but solid, real, and furious. She lunged at Kira with a snarl that made the enforcer stumble backward. "Alara, stop!" Ronan's command cracked like a whip. She stopped, barely. Her wolf wanted blood, wanted to tear into everyone who'd hurt these pups. But Ronan moved between her and Kira, his own eyes flashing with alpha power. "Shift back. Now." It took every ounce of control Alara had, but she forced the shift in reverse. The pain was just as bad going back, and when it finished, she collapsed to her knees, gasping. Ronan caught her before she hit the floor. "You shifted," he said quietly. "Fully." "I know." Her whole body trembled. "I haven't been able to do that in years." "Grief can unlock things," Mira said from where she worked over the poisoned pups. Strong emotion, rage. Alara looked past Ronan to where Kira still stood. "Are you part of the purebloods?" "I believe in pack purity," Kira said carefully. "That doesn't make me a murderer, but you agree with them. I think we're wasting resources on pups who'll never contribute, on weaklings who can't even hold their own forms." She smiled coldly. "Like you." Ronan's growl vibrated through the room. "Leave, before I forget your pack." Kira left, but her words lingered like poison in the air. Alara pulled away from Ronan and walked to the wrapped bodies. 3 pups who'd barely started healing, who'd just begun to hope. "Their names were Willow, Ash, and Stone," she said softly. Willow liked to sleep curled up near the window. Ash was terrified of loud noises. Stone hadn't spoken yet, but he was starting to trust me. Her voice cracked. "They deserve better than this." "They did," Ronan agreed. Exiling Marcus wasn't enough. Alara turned to face him. "The purebloods are still here, still poisoning, still killing, and they'll keep doing it until all the pups are dead or we stop them completely. I'm working on identifying the rest of the group." "How long will that take? Because I don't think we have time." She gestured to the healing house. "There are still over 200 pups here. How many more have to die before you act?" Ronan's expression darkened. "Be very careful with your tone." "Or what? You'll exile me too?" Alara laughed bitterly. "I've been exiled before. It doesn't scare me anymore. What scares me is watching pups die because we're too slow, too cautious, too worried about pack politics." "This isn't just politics." "Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're more concerned with keeping the peace than protecting the vulnerable." The words hung in the air like a slap. Garrett sucked in a breath. "Alara, you need to—" "She's right," Ronan interrupted. Everyone stared. "She's right," he repeated, looking directly at Alara. "I've been trying to handle this quietly, trying to root out the purebloods without causing a full pack split, but they're not giving me that option." His jaw tightened. "If I have to choose between pack unity and these pups' lives, I choose the pups." Kira's voice came from the doorway. She'd been listening. "Then you're a fool. The pack won't follow you if you choose outsiders over your own wolves." "Then they can leave with Marcus," Ronan said flatly. "I'm done playing their game." He turned to Garrett. "Call a full pack assembly. Tonight. Everyone attends or they're automatically suspect." "Alpha, that's—" "Do it." Garrett nodded and left. Ronan looked back at Alara. "You started something when you shifted, showed these wolves that even someone they consider defective can find their power." He moved closer. "Keep doing that. Show them these pups are worth fighting for." "How?" "However you need to." It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. The pack assembly was chaos. Over 500 wolves gathered in the great hall and the courtyard beyond. Alara stood near the front with Mira and the other healers, acutely aware of the hostile stares from certain pack members. Ronan stood on the raised platform, commanding absolute attention. 3 more pups died last night," he began without preamble. "Poisoned by wolves within our own pack. Wolves who call themselves pure bloods and believe orphaned pups are beneath our protection." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I exiled Marcus Thane for his role in the first poisoning, but the attacks continued, which means there are others." His voice hardened.
I'm giving the purebloods one chance. Come forward now, renounce your beliefs, and accept lesser punishment. Or hide, and when I find you, and I will find you, the punishment will be exile or death. You can't threaten us for having opinions, someone shouted from the back. Having opinions is fine. Murder is not. Ronan scanned the crowd. These orphaned pups are under my protection. Harming them is harming pack members. The law is clear. They're not pack, another voice called. They're outsiders, weaklings who will pollute our bloodlines. Then you fundamentally misunderstand what pack means, Ronan shot back. Pack isn't about bloodlines, it's about bonds, loyalty, protection of the vulnerable. If you can't see that, you don't belong here. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting protests. Alara watched it all with growing dread. Ronan was drawing a line in the sand, forcing people to choose sides. It was brave. It was also incredibly dangerous. A woman pushed to the front, older, with gray hair and cold eyes. You speak of protecting the vulnerable, Alpha King, but what about protecting the strong? These pups are draining our resources, our food stores, our healers' time. She gestured to Alara. And you've brought in an outsider, a defective wolf, to care for them. What message does that send? It sends the message that I value competence over bloodlines, Ronan replied. Alara has saved more pups in 2 weeks than our best healers managed in 6 months. By coddling them, by letting them wallow in grief instead of forcing them to be strong. Strength isn't the absence of grief, Alara said before she could stop herself. Every eye turned to her, her heart hammered, but she kept talking. Strength is surviving grief, processing it, coming out the other side. She looked at the gray-haired woman. These pups have been through hell, lost everything. You can't force them to be okay. You have to let them heal at their own pace. And what do you know about it, defective? The word still stung, but Alara pushed through. I know what it's like to be rejected, to be told you're worthless, to have nowhere to go and no one who cares if you live or die. Her voice strengthened. And I know that compassion matters more than strength, that kindness can save lives where force fails. Pretty words from someone who barely qualifies as a wolf. Maybe, Alara met her stare, but I can do something none of you could. I can reach these pups, give them hope, help them survive. She paused. What can you do besides kill them? Silence fell. Then the gray-haired woman smiled. I can do this. She pulled a knife from her belt and threw it. Alara didn't have time to dodge. The blade was going to hit her square in the chest, and there was nothing she could... Ronan moved. He was suddenly there, between Alara and the knife, catching it mid-flight with his bare hand. Blood welled between his fingers. Arrest her, he said calmly, still holding the knife. Attempted murder of a pack member. Guards swarmed the woman. She didn't resist, just smiled. You've already lost, Alpha King. The pack is divided, and divided packs don't survive. Get her out of here. As they dragged her away, Alara grabbed Ronan's bleeding hand. You're hurt. It's nothing. But he let her examine it. The cut was deep, would need stitches. You saved my life, she said quietly. Your pack. That's what we do. The words shouldn't have meant as much as they did, but for someone who'd spent years being told she wasn't pack, wasn't worthy, wasn't enough, hearing the Alpha King claim her as one of his own cracked something open inside her chest. Thank you, she whispered. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the chaos of the assembly faded away. It was just them standing together in the middle of a storm. Then Garrett cleared his throat. Alpha, we need to secure the area. The moment broke. Ronan pulled his hand back and addressed the remaining crowd. The assembly is over. Anyone with information about the Pure Bloods, report to Garrett immediately. Everyone else, return to your duties. The wolves dispersed slowly, muttering among themselves. Alara helped Ronan down from the platform. You need a healer. I need to make sure you're safe. I'm fine. Someone just tried to kill you. Someone's been trying to kill me since I got here, Alara pointed out. I'm getting used to it. He didn't smile. That's not funny. Wasn't meant to be. Mira appeared with her medicine bag. Let me see that hand, you stubborn man. While Mira worked, Alara watched the last of the pack members leave. Her eyes caught on a small group near the back. Younger wolves, whispering and shooting glances her direction. Not hostile, curious. One of them, a girl, maybe 16, approached hesitantly. "Excuse me? Are you really helping the orphaned pups?" "I'm trying to," Alara said carefully. "My little brother is in the healing house. His name is River. He's one of the twins." Alara's expression softened. "River's doing well. He and Reed are starting to eat regularly." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Really? He's okay. He's healing. It takes time, but he's getting there. Can I see him?" Alara glanced at Ronan, who nodded. "Come by tomorrow morning," Alara said. "Seeing family might help." The girl thanked her profusely and left, her whole posture lighter. "You're building support," Mira observed as she wrapped Ronan's hand, one person at a time. "The purebloods won't like that. Then they can join Marcus in exile." Ronan flexed his bandaged hand. "I meant what I said. Anyone who harms these pups answers to me." But Alara knew it wasn't that simple. The purebloods were embedded deep in the pack structure. Rooting them out would tear Blackthorn apart, and she was at the center of it all. That night, she couldn't sleep. Alara sat in the healing house watching over the pups. Most were sleeping peacefully, thanks to the increased security and new water source Garrett had arranged. But peaceful didn't mean safe. Footsteps made her turn. Ronan entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs. "Thought you might want tea." "Can't sleep either?" "Not lately." He handed her a mug and sat beside her on the floor. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the ones we lost. Willow, Ash, and Stone. And the 87 before them." He stared into his tea. "I keep thinking if I'd acted faster, been smarter, been stronger." "You'd have saved them all?" Alara shook her head. "That's not how this works. We do our best and hope it's enough." "What if it's not?" "Then we live with it and keep fighting." She took a sip of tea, mint and honey, surprisingly good. "You're doing everything you can. Sometimes that has to be enough." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sleeping pups. "Can I ask you something?" Ronan said finally. "Sure." "Why did you agree to come here? You could have refused. Could have stayed in Greymark where it was safe." Alara considered the question. "It wasn't safe. Not really. I was surviving, not living." She looked at Ash, curled up with Ember. "And when Garrett told me about 300 dying pups, I couldn't say no. Couldn't let them die when maybe I could help." "Even though it meant leaving everything you'd built?" "Everything I'd built was small and lonely." She smiled sadly. "Turns out I wanted more than that. I just didn't know it until I got here." Ronan was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm glad you came. Even with all the danger and chaos, I'm glad." The admission hung between them, weighted with things neither said. "Me too," Alara whispered. A pup whimpered in its sleep. Alara set down her tea and went to check. Just a nightmare. She stroked its head until it settled. When she returned, Ronan was still there, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What?" she asked. "You're good at this. Better than good." He paused. "The pups respond to you because you understand them. You've been where they are. Everyone's been hurt. Not like you have." His voice was gentle. "You know what it's like to be rejected by your own pack, to be called defective and worthless, to rebuild from nothing." He met her eyes. "That's why you can reach them, because you're proof that survival is possible." The words settled over her like a blanket, warm and heavy and true. "I never thought of it like that," she admitted. "You should." Ronan stood, offering her his hand. "You're not defective, Alara. You never were. The wolves who exiled you were just too blind to see your worth." She took his hand and let him pull her up. They stood close, his hand still holding hers. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Hard not to. The moment stretched, charged with possibility. Then a scream shattered the silence. They both spun toward the sound. It came from outside, high and terrified. Ronan ran for the door with Alara right behind him. In the courtyard, chaos erupted. Flames licked up the side of one of the storage buildings. Wolves rushed everywhere, shouting, trying to organize a water line. But that wasn't what made Alara's blood freeze. The orphaned pup's living quarters, a separate building from the healing house, was on fire. "No!" She sprinted toward it. Ronan caught her arm. "It's too dangerous." There are pups inside. They can't shift yet. They can't escape. She jerked free. Let me go. Ilara. She didn't wait. She shifted mid-run, the transformation faster this time, and burst through the burning doorway. Smoke choked the air. Heat pressed down like a living thing. Ilara could barely see through the flames, but she could hear them. Pups crying out in terror. She followed the sound to a corner where 5 pups huddled together, trapped by a wall of fire. No way out except through the flames. Ilara shifted back to human, grabbed her cloak from where it had fallen, and soaked it in the water trough near the door. She wrapped it around herself and the pups. "Hold on to me!" she shouted over the roar of the fire. "Don't let go!" They clung to her, trembling and crying. Ilara took a breath and ran. The flames tore at her exposed skin. The smoke seared her lungs. Pain exploded everywhere, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop. She burst through the doorway and collapsed in the courtyard. Hands grabbed her, pulled the pups away. Ronan's face appeared above her, shouting something she couldn't hear. Then everything went black. She woke up in pain. Every inch of her body screamed. Burns covered her arms and legs. Her lungs felt like they'd been scraped raw. "Don't move." Mira's voice, gentle but firm. Ilara tried to speak and coughed instead. The coughing hurt worse than the burns. "The pups," she rasped. "Alive. All 5. Thanks to you." Relief flooded through her so strongly she almost passed out again. "How bad?" she managed. "Second-degree burns on your arms and legs, some smoke damage to your lungs. You'll heal, but it's going to take time." Mira pressed a cup to her lips. "Drink. It'll help with the pain." The liquid was bitter, but worked fast. The agony dulled to a manageable throb. "Who started the fire?" Ilara asked. "We're still investigating, but Garrett found accelerant. This was deliberate." The purebloods. Still attacking, still trying to kill the pups, and now they'd nearly killed her too. "I want to see them," Ilara said. "The pups I saved." "You need to rest. Please." Mira sighed but helped her sit up. The room spun, but Ilara gritted her teeth and waited for it to stabilize. They brought in the 5 pups, frightened, covered in soot, but alive. When they saw Ilara, they rushed to her bedside, whimpering and licking her hands. "Hey, babies," she whispered. "You're okay. We're all okay." One of them, a gray female named Sky, shifted suddenly. Not into a wolf, into a little girl, maybe 7 years old. She threw her arms around Ilara's neck and sobbed. "You saved us. You came back for us." The other 4 shifted too, piling onto the bed, despite Mira's protests. "Of course I came back," Ilara said, holding them as carefully as her burned arms allowed. "I'll always come back for you." The door opened. Ronan entered, his expression dark. He took one look at Ilara covered in bandages and children, and something shifted in his face. "The fire was set by purebloods," he said without preamble. "We caught 2 of them fleeing the scene. They confessed to everything, the poisonings, the fire, all of it." "Who?" Ilara asked. "Wolves I trusted. Wolves who'd served the pack for years." His hands clenched into fists. "I've ordered immediate exile for anyone confirmed as pure blood. No trials. No second chances." "How many?" 32 so far. And we're still counting. 32 wolves, nearly 5% of the pack. The division the gray-haired woman had predicted was coming true. "Ronan," Ilara said carefully, "you can't exile everyone who disagrees with you." "I'm not. I'm exiling murderers." His eyes met hers. "They tried to kill you, Ilara. Tried to burn you alive along with the pups. There's no coming back from that." She couldn't argue with his logic, but she could see the toll it was taking on him. The weight of every decision, every exile, every life he couldn't save. "Come here," she said softly. He approached the bed. She reached out with her bandaged hand and took his. "You're doing the right thing," she told him. "It's hard and it hurts, but it's right." "Doesn't feel right. Feels like I'm tearing the pack apart." "The pack was already torn. You're just making people choose which side they're on." The pup shifted restlessly. Sky looked up at Ronan with big, worried eyes. "Are we safe now?" Ronan knelt down to her level. "I promise you, you're safe. No one will hurt you again." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let them." He looked at all 5 pups. "Your pack now, under my protection. Anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through me first. Sky studied him seriously. Then she nodded. Okay, I believe you. It was such simple trust, such complete faith, and it broke something in Ronan's carefully controlled expression. He stood quickly. I'll leave you to rest. But before he could go, Alara called out, Ronan? He turned. Thank you for everything. He nodded once and left. The pups curled up around Alara, their small bodies warm and solid against hers. She stroked their hair and fur, feeling the steady rhythm of their breathing. They were alive. She was alive. And somehow, impossibly, they were winning. Recovery took 3 days. Mira kept Alara on bed rest despite her protests. The burns healed slowly. Wolf healing helped, but there was only so much it could do. On the 4th day, Alara was finally allowed back to the healing house. What she found stunned her. The room was full of activity. Not sick, dying pups anymore. Playing pups, talking pups, pups who'd shifted to human form and were laughing with each other. What happened? She asked Mira. The healer smiled. You happened. When word spread about what you did, running into a burning building to save them, it changed something. These pups saw that someone cared enough to risk everything for them. She gestured around the room. They started responding, shifting, eating, healing. Alara couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was seeing. Flint ran up and hugged her legs. Alara, you're back. Hi, sweetheart. She ruffled his hair. You look good. I feel good. He grinned. Me and Storm and Reed and River. We're starting training next week. Real pack training. That's wonderful. More pups gathered around her, asking questions, showing her their wolf forms, telling her about their plans and dreams. Alara moved through the healing house in a daze. Everywhere she looked, pups were thriving. Not all of them. There were still dozens who hadn't broken through, who lay on their pallets, silent and fading. But so many more had found their way back. She reached the far corner and stopped. A small pallet sat empty. She recognized it. This was where a pup named Lyra had been for months, silent, unresponsive. One of the worst cases. Where's Lyra? Alara asked. Over there. Mira pointed to the window. A little girl sat on the sill, dark hair falling around her face, staring out at the forest. Alara approached slowly. Lyra? Can I sit with you? The girl didn't respond. Alara sat anyway, careful not to crowd her. They stayed like that for a long time, silent, together. Then Lyra spoke. I watched them die. The words were barely a whisper. Your pack? Alara asked gently. Lyra nodded. We got sick, all of us. My mom and dad tried to help everyone, but the sickness was too strong. Her small hands clenched. They died taking care of others, and I couldn't do anything. You were just a pup. You couldn't have saved them. I know, but I wanted to. Lyra turned to look at Alara for the first time. Her eyes were ancient, haunted. I wanted to be brave like you, to run into the fire. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, Alara said. It means being scared and doing it anyway. Were you scared in the fire? Terrified. But you still went, because you needed me to. Alara reached out slowly and took Lyra's hand, just like your parents kept helping their pack because their pack needed them. That's what love looks like, showing up even when it's hard. Lyra's face crumpled. I miss them so much. I know, baby. I know. The little girl launched herself into Alara's arms and cried, deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from her very soul. Alara held her and let her break. Around them, the healing house went quiet. Other pups watched. Healers paused in their work. Lyra cried for 10 minutes straight, then 20, then 30. And when she finally pulled back, her eyes were red and swollen, but clear. I haven't cried since they died, she whispered. I couldn't. It felt like if I started, I'd never stop. Sometimes you have to fall apart before you can put yourself back together, Alara said. Lyra nodded slowly, then she shifted. The transformation was smooth, perfect. She became a beautiful black wolf with silver markings. The entire healing house gasped. Lyra shifted back, grinning through her tears. I did it. You did. Alara hugged her again. I'm so proud of you. Other pups rushed over, celebrating. Lyra laughed, a sound like bells. Mira appeared at Alara's elbow. She hasn't shifted in 4 months. We thought she never would. She just needed time, Alara said, and permission to grieve. But even as she said it, she felt something shift in the room, an energy, a connection. The pups weren't just healing individually anymore. They were bonding with each other, forming their own pack within the pack. And at the center of it all was Lyra, the silent, broken pup who just found her voice. Ronan arrived an hour later. Alara knew the moment he entered because every pup turned to look at him with a mix of awe and nervousness. Alpha King, Lyra said formally, standing as tall as her small frame allowed. Thank you for saving us. Ronan looked at the little girl, then at Alara, then back at Lyra. You're welcome. But Alara's the one who saved you. I just provided the space. Then thank you both. Lyra smiled shyly. We're going to make you proud. You already have. The simple statement made several pups tear up. Ronan crossed to where Alara stood. Can we talk? Outside? She nodded and followed him into the courtyard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, beautiful and terrible at the same time. We found the rest of the purebloods, Ronan said without preamble. 48 total, all exiled. 48. The number was staggering. That's 6% of the pack. I know. He ran a hand through his hair. We're weaker now, vulnerable. If another pack wanted to attack, this would be the time. Will they? Maybe, probably. He sighed, but I couldn't let those wolves stay, not after what they did. You made the right choice. Did I? The pack is fractured, morale is low. Some wolves are questioning whether protecting the orphan pups is worth all this chaos. Alara turned to face him fully. Is it worth it to you? Yes. No hesitation. These pups deserve protection, deserve life. I won't apologize for that. Then that's your answer. She gestured back toward the healing house. Look at what we've accomplished in just a few weeks. Look at how many pups are healing. That's real. That matters. Kira doesn't think so. She's organizing wolves who agree with the purebloods' ideology, even if they didn't participate in the attacks. How many? Around 100. 100 wolves, nearly 15% of the pack. The division was real and growing. What are you going to do? Alara asked. I don't know. Ronan looked exhausted. Part of me wants to exile them too, clean house completely, but we can't afford to lose that many wolves. So you're stuck. So I'm stuck. They stood in silence, watching the sun disappear. Then Alara said, What if we gave them a choice? What kind of choice? Stay and accept the pups as pack, or leave voluntarily. No exile, no punishment, just different paths. Ronan considered this. A split, a peaceful one. Let the wolves who can't accept this new direction find a new pack. And keep the ones who believe in what we're building here. That's still weakening Blackthorn. Or it's strengthening it by removing the rot. Alara met his eyes. A pack divided against itself won't survive. Better to split now, peacefully, than tear apart in civil war later. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, You're right. I am? You are. He straightened. I'll make the announcement tomorrow. Anyone who can't accept the orphaned pups can leave with my blessing and enough supplies to start over. Some will see it as weakness. Some will see it as strength. He smiled faintly. And you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm tired of playing politics, tired of trying to please everyone. The pups matter more than pack unity. The word settled into Alara's bones, solid, true. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I think you're an incredible alpha. He looked at her, surprise flickering across his face. You do? You lead with compassion. You protect the vulnerable. You're willing to sacrifice your own comfort for what's right. She smiled. That's exactly what an alpha should be. Ronan stepped closer. Alara! A howl cut through the air, then another and another. The alarm howl. Enemy at the borders. Ronan's expression hardened instantly. Get inside. Lock the healing house down. What's happening? We're under attack. Alara ran, not away from the healing house, toward it. The alarm howls multiplied, echoing through the valley like a death knell. Wolves poured from buildings, shifting mid-stride, racing toward the perimeter. She burst through the healing house door. Mira, lock everything down, now! The head healer was already moving, barring windows and reinforcing doors with practiced efficiency. Other healers gathered the pups into the center of the room, away from exits. "What's happening?" Lyra asked, her small face pale. "Someone's attacking the territory," Alara said, forcing calm into her voice. "But you're safe here. I promise." "What if they get through?" "They won't." But even as she said it, Alara wondered if that was true. With 48 wolves exiled and 100 more questioning Ronan's leadership, Blackthorn's defenses were compromised. Outside, the sounds of battle erupted. Snarls, screams, the clash of bodies. Alara moved to the window, peering through the narrow gap. In the dying light, she could see wolves fighting near the main gate. Blackthorn wolves in their territory's colors against unfamiliar attackers. Larger, darker, moving with coordinated precision. "Raiders from the Eastern Pack, say it," Mira said grimly, joining her. "They've been testing our borders for months. Must have heard about the exile." "How many?" "Hard to say. 50? 60? Alara's stomach dropped. Blackthorn had maybe 400 fighters left. Normally, that would be more than enough. But normally, the pack wasn't fractured and exhausted. A massive gray wolf, Ronan, she recognized his markings, tore through 3 attackers, his alpha power radiating like heat. But for every enemy he dropped, 2 more appeared. They were being overwhelmed. "We have to help," Alara said. "You're not a fighter," Mira protested. "I'm a wolf, that's enough." She turned to the pups. Most were too young to fight, but some, like Flint and Lyra, had started training. They looked terrified but determined. "Listen to me," Alara said. "I need you to stay here. Protect the younger ones. Can you do that?" Flint straightened. "We can." "Good." She looked at Lyra. "You're in charge until I get back." "What if you don't come back?" The question was small, scared. Alara knelt down and cupped Lyra's face. "I will. I promise." Then she shifted and ran into the battle. The transformation was smoother now, faster. Her wolf form was still smaller than a full-blood's, but what she lacked in size she made up for in speed. She hit the fight like a missile, slamming into an enemy wolf who'd been about to take down a Blackthorn fighter. They rolled together, teeth snapping. The enemy was bigger, stronger, but Alara was desperate. She got her jaws around his throat and bit down until he went limp. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. She'd never killed before. There wasn't time to process it. Another attacker lunged at her. She dodged, barely, feeling claws rake her side. Pain exploded, but she kept moving, kept fighting. Around her, Blackthorn wolves battled with increasing desperation. They were holding the line, but barely. Then Alara saw her, Kira, fighting in the center of the courtyard, but not against the attackers, against Blackthorn wolves. "Traitor!" someone screamed. Kira snarled back. "I'm saving this pack. Ronan's weakness will destroy us all." She wasn't alone. At least 20 wolves fought alongside her, pack members who'd sided with the Purebloods' ideology. A coup. The raiders weren't just attacking, they'd been let in. Rage unlike anything Alara had ever felt surged through her. She charged at Kira, hitting the larger wolf with all her weight. They crashed to the ground. Kira recovered first, slashing at Alara's face. Blood sprayed. "You don't belong here," Kira snarled in the wolf tongue that all their kind understood. Defective, weak, useless. Alara had heard those words her whole life. She was done letting them have power. She lunged again, faster this time. Kira was a better fighter, trained, experienced. But Alara fought like someone with nothing left to lose. She got under Kira's guard and bit down on her leg. Bone crunched. Kira howled and threw her off. Alara hit the ground hard, vision blurring. Kira limped toward her, murder in her eyes. "You've destroyed everything. This pack was strong before you came. Now look at us, divided, weak, dying." "No," Alara gasped, forcing herself to stand. "You did this, you and the Purebloods. You chose hatred over compassion, division over unity." "Compassion is weakness." "Then I'd rather be weak." Alara shifted back to human, standing naked and bloodied in the middle of the battlefield. Around them, wolves paused mid-fight, shocked by the transformation. "Look at what we've accomplished," Alara shouted, addressing everyone, Blackthorn wolves and traitors alike. 3 weeks ago, those pups were dying. Now they're healing, thriving, becoming part of this pack. She gestured toward the healing house. "That's not weakness.
That's strength. They're outsiders. One of Kira's allies snarled. So was I, and Ronan gave me a chance anyway. Gave all of them a chance. Her voice cracked. This pack is supposed to protect the vulnerable. That's what makes us different from rogues and raiders. That's what makes us worth following. Pretty speech, Kira said. Won't save you. She lunged, but before she could reach Alara, Ronan was there. He hit Kira mid-leap, driving her into the dirt with bone-crushing force. His jaws closed around her throat, not killing, but restraining. Yield, he growled in wolf speech. Kira thrashed, refusing. Ronan bit down harder. I said yield. Finally, Kira went limp in submission. Ronan released her and shifted to human form. Blood covered him from a dozen wounds, but he stood like a king surveying his territory. This ends now, he announced, his voice carrying across the battlefield. Kira, you and your allies are exiled, effective immediately. The raiders, he turned to the remaining attackers. You have one chance. Leave now or die here. The raiders looked at each other. They'd expected a fractured pack, an easy victory. Instead, they faced an Alpha King who just put down a coup without hesitation. One by one, they retreated. Kira shifted back to human, clutching her wounded leg. You're making a mistake. This pack won't survive on compassion alone. Then I'll die trying, Ronan said flatly. Get out of my territory. Guards dragged Kira and her allies away. Some went quietly. Others screamed threats until they disappeared beyond the gates. The courtyard fell silent except for the sound of wounded wolves being tended. Alara stood in the center of it all, suddenly aware that she was naked and bleeding and every remaining wolf was staring at her. Someone threw a cloak over her shoulders. She pulled it tight, shaking. Ronan approached. That was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, she admitted. He laughed, a short, exhausted sound. You stopped a coup by appealing to their conscience. I didn't know that was possible. Did it work? Some of Kira's supporters stood down, refused to keep fighting once you spoke. He looked around at the scattered wolves. You gave them a reason to choose the pups over their prejudice. Not all of them. No, but enough. He reached out and gently touched her face where Kira had clawed her. You need healing. So do you. They stood there, battered and bloody, surrounded by the aftermath of battle. Then a small voice cut through the night. Alara! Lyra ran from the healing house, Flint and the other pups behind her. They swarmed Alara, checking her wounds, crying with relief. You came back, Lyra sobbed. You promised and you came back. Of course I did. Alara knelt down, gathering as many pups as she could hold. I'll always come back for you. Mira appeared with medical supplies. Inside, all of you. We need to treat these wounds before infection sets in. The pups helped Alara back to the healing house. Other wolves watched silently, their expressions ranging from awe to confusion to grudging respect. As they passed, Jessa from the kitchen stepped forward. Thank you for saving us. Others murmured agreement. Alara didn't know what to say. She just nodded and kept walking. Inside the healing house, organized chaos reigned. Healers worked on injured fighters, while pups helped where they could, fetching water, holding bandages, offering comfort. Mira sat Alara down and started cleaning her wounds. You're lucky. Nothing vital hit. Doesn't feel lucky, Alara muttered as disinfectant burned. You survived a battle and a coup attempt. I'd call that lucky. Across the room, Ronan was being treated by another healer. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Partnership. Whatever it was, it felt solid. A young wolf Alara didn't recognize approached hesitantly. Excuse me? I'm Finn, one of the scouts. What is it? The Exiles, Kira's group. They're not leaving quietly. They're gathering at the southern border. Looks like they're planning something. Ronan was on his feet instantly. How many? 20, maybe 25. They can attack, Garrett said, joining them. They don't have the numbers. No, but they can do damage before we stop them. Ronan grimaced. I need to go deal with this. You're injured, Mira protested. I'm Alpha King. It's my responsibility. Then take backup, Alara said. Don't face them alone. He smiled faintly. Planning to come with me?
Dus
Someone has to keep you from doing something heroic and stupid. Despite the tension, several wolves laughed. Ronan sobered. Actually, I need you to stay here. If this goes badly, the pups need their shepherd. The title hit Alara harder than expected. She'd resisted it for weeks, insisting she was just Alara. But standing here, surrounded by pups who looked at her like she hung the moon, she couldn't deny it anymore. She was their shepherd, and they needed her. Be careful, she said quietly. Always am. It was a lie. They both knew it, but she let it stand. Ronan gathered 30 wolves and headed south. The healing house settled into tense waiting. Lyra climbed into Alara's lap. Will he be okay? He's the Alpha King. He'll be fine. You don't sound sure. Alara sighed. I'm not, but I have to believe it anyway. They sat together, listening to the night. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, howls echoed from the south. Not alarm howls, victory howls. Relief flooded through Alara so strongly her legs went weak. 30 minutes later, Ronan returned, exhausted but alive. It's done, he announced. Kira and her allies are gone. They won't be coming back. Cheers erupted. But Alara saw the cost in Ronan's eyes, the weight of every exile, every betrayal. He caught her staring and mouthed, Later. She nodded. The healing house slowly returned to normal. Wounded wolves were settled, pups were tucked into bed. The crisis was over, for now. Alara found Ronan on the roof of the great hall, staring at the stars. Couldn't sleep either? She asked, sitting beside him. Too much happened today. My brain won't shut off. Mine either. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Ronan said, 73 wolves. That's how many we've lost, exiled or left voluntarily, since you arrived. I'm sorry. Don't be. Most of them were poison in the pack anyway. He looked at her. The ones who stayed? They're the ones who matter, the ones who believe in something bigger than bloodlines and tradition. That's less than a third of your original force. Quality over quantity. He smiled tiredly. Besides, we're getting reinforcements. We are? Word's spreading about what we're doing here, about the pups healing. Other packs are sending their orphans to us, asking if we can help. Alara's eyes widened. How many? 50 so far. More arriving every week. 50 more pups. 50 more chances to make a difference. 50 more responsibilities. Can we handle it? She asked. With you leading the healing program? Yes. Ronan turned to face her fully. You've built something incredible here, Alara. A sanctuary. A place where broken pups can become whole again. We built it together. No, you built it. I just provided the space. He reached out and took her bandaged hand. You're the heart of this place. The reason it works. Miss, his touch sent warmth through her entire body. Ronan, I know this isn't the time, he interrupted. We're still recovering from a coup, still dealing with the aftermath, but I need you to know. He paused, searching for words. You've changed everything. Changed me. Made me remember why I became Alpha King in the first place. To protect the vulnerable, Alara said softly. To protect the vulnerable, he agreed. You reminded me what that actually means. They sat close together, hands linked, surrounded by starlight. Alara felt something shift inside her, a settling, like pieces she didn't know were scattered finally clicking into place. I was so angry when Garrett dragged me here, she admitted. Angry and scared and convinced I was going to fail. And now? Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. Ronan's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Good, because I can't imagine this place without you. The moment hung between them, heavy with possibility. Then Alara yawned. She couldn't help it. The day's exhaustion was catching up. Ronan laughed. Come on, you need sleep. So do you. I'll sleep when the territory's secure. Stubborn. Takes one to know one. He walked her back to her quarters. The pups were already asleep inside, piled together like puppies. Thank you, Alara said at the door, for everything. Thank you for staying, for believing in this. He hesitated. For believing in me. Before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her forehead, brief and gentle. Then he was gone.
disappearing into the night. Alara stood there, one hand pressed to where his lips had touched, feeling her heart race. She was in so much trouble, but for the first time in her life, it was the good kind.
The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Alara was working with a newly arrived group of pups, shy, terrified things who'd lost their pack to disease, when Garrett appeared. "You have guests," he said, "in the Great Hall." "Who?" "You'll see." Curious, Alara followed him. The Great Hall was full. Wolves she didn't recognize lined the walls, at least 40 of them, wearing colors from a dozen different packs. And at the front, looking uncomfortable and out of place, stood her father. Alara froze. She hadn't seen him in 5 years, not since the day he'd voted to exile her. He looked older, grayer, tired. "Alara," he said, his voice rough. "Thank you for seeing me." "I didn't agree to see you." She looked at Ronan, who stood beside her father. "What's going on?" "These are representatives from the surrounding packs," Ronan explained. "They've heard about our success with the orphaned pups. They want to learn our methods." "And him?" She gestured to her father. "He's the representative from Greymark Pack." Of course he was. Her father stepped forward. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but our pack has 7 orphaned pups. They're dying, and we don't know how to help them." His voice cracked. "I'm begging you, please, show us what you've learned." Every eye in the room turned to Alara. She could refuse, could tell him exactly what she thought of him and his pack, could make him feel the rejection she'd felt. But looking at her father, really looking, she saw something she'd never seen before. Regret. "How long have they been fading?" she asked. Relief flooded his face. 3 months. "Bring them here. All 7. We'll take them into our program." "Alara, you don't have to," Ronan started. "I know." She met her father's eyes. "But the pups don't deserve to suffer because their pack made mistakes." Her father's shoulders shook. "Thank you. Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just bring them." She turned to address the entire room. "Anyone who has orphaned pups in need of help, you can send them to Blackthorn. We'll do everything we can." Murmurs rippled through the representatives. One of them, a stern woman from the Western Territories, spoke up. "What do you charge for this service?" "Charge?" Alara blinked. "Nothing. These are children." "You're offering sanctuary for free?" "We're offering hope for free. Whether you take it is up to you." The woman studied her for a long moment. Then she bowed, a formal sign of respect. "The Western Packs honor you, Shepherd." Others followed suit, bowing one by one. Alara stood there, overwhelmed. A month ago, she'd been nobody. A defective wolf scraping by in a tavern. Now, representatives from a dozen packs were bowing to her. The meeting continued for another hour. Packs asked questions, made arrangements to send their orphans, offered resources and support. Through it all, Alara's father stood to the side watching. When the meeting finally ended and the representatives dispersed, he approached her. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Privately?" Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, but she'd spent 5 years running from this conversation. Maybe it was time to face it. "Fine, outside." They walked to the courtyard, away from listening ears. Her father spoke first. "I was wrong. About you. About everything. Yes, you were." "I thought strength meant being physically dominant, being able to shift perfectly, being traditional." He looked at the healing house. "I didn't understand that real strength is what you're doing here, helping the broken, giving hope to the hopeless." "You exiled me," Alara said flatly. "Told me I wasn't Pack, that I was defective." "I know." "You voted against your own daughter." I know." His voice broke. "I know, and I've regretted it every day since. Your mother barely speaks to me. Your brother won't even look at me. I destroyed our family because I was too proud to see what was right in front of me. A little late for regrets. I know, but I had to try." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a wooden carving of a wolf, crude but clearly made with love. "Your brother carved this, asked me to give it to you." He held it out. "He says he's proud of you, that you're the best wolf our pack ever had." Alara took the carving with shaking hands.
It was warm from being carried close to her father's body. "I don't forgive you," she said quietly. "I'm not sure I ever will." "I don't expect you to, but I'll help your pups, because they deserve better than to pay for your mistakes." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "That's more than I deserve. Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just do better. Be better." "I will, I promise." He left soon after, taking the other representatives with him. Alara stood alone in the courtyard, holding her brother's carving. Ronan found her there an hour later. "That must have been hard, he said. "Harder than fighting Kira." Alara turned the carving over in her hands. Part of me wanted to scream at him, tell him how much he hurt me. "Why didn't you?" "Because it wouldn't change anything, wouldn't fix what he broke." She looked up. "All it would do is spread more pain, and I'm tired of pain." Ronan moved closer. "You're remarkable. You know that? I'm just trying to survive." "No, you're thriving, and helping others thrive too." He gestured to the healing house. "Those pups worship you. The healers respect you. Even wolves who opposed you at first are coming around. Not all of them. Enough of them." He took her hand. "You've changed this pack, Alara. Changed it for the better. And you did it by being exactly who you are. Compassionate, stubborn, brave. Don't forget defective," she said wryly. "You're not defective. You never were." His voice was fierce. "You're different, special, irreplaceable." The word settled over her like a blessing. For years, Alara had defined herself by other people's judgments, defective, worthless, broken. But standing here, hand in hand with an alpha king who saw her worth, surrounded by pups she'd saved and a pack she'd helped heal, she finally understood the truth. She wasn't defective. She was exactly who she needed to be. "Thank you," she whispered. Ronan pulled her into his arms. She went willingly, resting her head against his chest. They stood like that for a long time, drawing strength from each other. When they finally pulled apart, Ronan smiled. "Ready to save some more pups?" "Always." Together, they walked back to the healing house. Inside, Lyra and the other pups waited. When they saw Alara, they cheered. "We heard," Lyra said excitedly. "More pups are coming. We get to help them like you helped us." "That's right," Alara said. "But it's going to be hard work." "We're ready," Flint declared. "We're survivors. We can handle it." Looking at their determined faces, these pups who'd been broken and were now whole, Alara felt hope bloom in her chest. They were right. They were survivors. All of them. And together they were going to change the world. 6 months changed everything. Alara stood at the edge of the training field, watching as 50 pups practiced their shifts under Garrett's watchful eye. Some transformed smoothly. Others still struggled, their forms flickering between wolf and human. But they were all trying, all healing. "Looking good out there," Mira said, joining her. "Lyra's almost ready for full pack training." Alara nodded toward the dark-haired girl who led a group of younger pups through basic combat stances. "She's come so far." "They all have. Because of you." Alara shook her head. "Because they chose to heal. I just gave them space to do it." "Stop being modest. It's annoying." Mira smiled. "The new arrivals from the Eastern Territories are settling in well. That's 18 pups this week alone." 18. The number should have been overwhelming. 6 months ago it would have been. Now it felt manageable. The healing house had expanded into 3 buildings. More healers had joined the program. The older pups helped train the newer ones, creating a cycle of recovery and support. What had started as desperate survival had become something bigger. A movement. "How many total now?" Alara asked. 412 pups, from 23 different packs. Mira consulted her notes. "We've lost 6 in the last 6 months, compared to the 87 we lost in the first 6 months before you arrived." The math was staggering. "Ronan wants to talk to you," Mira added. "Something about a visitor." Lara's stomach tightened. "What kind of visitor?" "The official kind, wearing fancy clothes and traveling with an entourage." That didn't sound good. Alara found Ronan in his office, pacing. A map of the Northern Territories covered his desk, marked with territorial boundaries and pack locations. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Depends on your definition of wrong." He stopped pacing. "The High Council is sending a delegation.
They'll be here tomorrow. The High Council, the governing body that oversaw all wolf packs in the Northern Territories. They settled disputes, enforced ancient laws, and had the power to dissolve packs they deemed unstable or dangerous. Why are they coming? Alara's voice came out steadier than she felt. To investigate our unorthodox methods with orphaned pups. Ronan's jaw tightened. Apparently, some of the packs we've helped aren't happy about our success. They're claiming we're hoarding pups, stealing future pack members. That's ridiculous. We're saving lives. I know, but the council has to investigate formal complaints. He ran a hand through his hair. If they decide our methods are destabilizing pack structures or violating tradition, they can shut us down. Force us to return all the orphaned pups to their original territories. The words hit like a punch. Return the pups, to packs that had failed them, to territories where they'd been dying.
No, Alara said. Absolutely not. It might not be our choice. Then we make it our choice. She moved to the map, studying it. How many council members are coming? 3. Elder Mordecai from the western packs, Elder Saskia from the south, and Elder Chen from the east. And they'll want to see our operation, talk to the pups, assess the situation. Yes. Alara's mind raced.
The council would be looking for reasons to condemn them, evidence of instability, proof that compassion was weakness.
They needed to show something different. We need to demonstrate that what we're doing isn't just saving individual pups, she said slowly. We're creating stronger wolves, better pack members, future leaders. Ronan looked at her sharply. What are you thinking? A demonstration. Show them what these pups can do now.
How they've grown and healed and become valuable members of the pack. The council isn't easily impressed. Then we'll have to be impressive. She met his eyes. Trust me. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I trust you. The next day, Alara gathered the pups in the Great Hall. Over 400 young wolves filled the space, some in human form, some as wolves, all watching her with varying degrees of curiosity and concern. The High Council is coming, she announced. They want to decide if what we're doing here is right or wrong, if we should be allowed to continue. Worried murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lyra stood up. What happens if they say no? Then they'll try to separate us, send you back to territories that couldn't help you. Alara's voice hardened. I won't let that happen, but I need your help. What do you want us to do? Flint asked. Show them who you are, not broken pups who need saving, strong wolves who've survived the impossible and come out better for it. She looked around the room. Show them what this sanctuary has built. The pups exchanged glances. Then, one by one, they nodded. We can do that, Lyra said firmly. We've been practicing. Practicing what? Lyra smiled. You'll see. Osh. The High Council arrived at sunset, their caravan impressive and intimidating. 3 elders, ancient wolves who'd lived for centuries, climbed from ornate carriages, flanked by guards and advisors. Elder Mordecai was a massive man with silver hair and scars covering both arms. Elder Saskia was elegant and cold, her dark skin unmarked and her movements precise. Elder Chen was smallest but somehow most intimidating, his eyes missing nothing. Ronan greeted them formally, showing them to guest quarters in the main hall. Alara watched from a distance, her heart pounding. Everything they'd built hung in the balance. That evening, a formal dinner was held. Alara sat at Ronan's right hand, a position of honor that raised several eyebrows among the council members. So you're the famous shepherd, Elder Saskia said, her tone impossible to read. The defective wolf who supposedly works miracles. I don't work miracles, Alara replied carefully. I just provide space for healing. By coddling them? Elder Mordecai cut a piece of meat with aggressive precision, letting them wallow in grief instead of forcing them to be strong? Strength comes in many forms. Does it? He leaned forward. A wolf who can't fight is useless to a pack. A wolf who can't hunt is a drain on resources. What you're teaching these pups, weakness, dependency, it goes against everything our kind has built. What I'm teaching them, Alara said, forcing herself to stay calm, is that surviving trauma doesn't make you weak. It makes you resilient. and resilience is worth more than brute strength. Elder Chen spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but carrying. You were exiled from your own pack, were you not? I was. For being defective. That's what they claimed. And yet here you sit, advising an Alpha King, running a program that spans multiple territories. His eyes were sharp. How did a defective wolf achieve all this? It was a trap. Alara could feel it. If she claimed she wasn't defective, she'd be denying the truth of her struggles. If she accepted the label, she'd be reinforcing their prejudices. She chose a third option. I achieved this by refusing to let other people's definitions limit me, she said. My old pack said I was worthless. I proved them wrong. These pups were told they'd never heal. They're proving everyone wrong. She met Elder Chen's gaze directly. Maybe the problem isn't defective wolves. Maybe it's defective thinking. Silence fell across the table. Then Elder Saskia laughed, a sharp, unexpected sound. Bold, I'll give you that. Bold or foolish, Elder Mordecai muttered. Tomorrow we observe your methods, Elder Chen said. Then we decide. The dinner ended soon after. Alara escaped to the roof, needing air and space. Ronan found her there, as she'd known he would. That went better than expected, Hisam, he said, sitting beside her. Did it? Because it felt like walking on knives. Elder Chen is intrigued. That's good. Elder Mordecai wants us shut down. Probably, but we only need 2 votes to continue. Ronan took her hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know, you've already won. You've saved over 400 lives. Built something incredible. The council can't take that away. They can take the pups away. Then we'll fight them.
You'd go against the High Council? For orphan pups?
For you,
he said quietly. For them. For what's right.
Alara turned to look at him, this Alpha King who'd risked everything to give broken pups a chance, who'd stood by her when his own pack turned against him, who saw her, really saw her, and chose her anyway. I love you, she said. The words hung in the air, simple and true. Ronan's eyes widened. Alara. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. She squeezed his hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, I needed you to know. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I love you too. Have for months, was just waiting for the right moment to tell you. And this is the right moment? Night before we potentially lose everything? This is the perfect moment. He kissed her, deep and thorough and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Alara was breathless. We're going to win tomorrow, she said. How do you know? Because we have to. Too many pups are counting on us. Morning came too fast. The elders gathered in the training field, surrounded by their advisors and guards. Half the pack turned out to watch. Wolves who'd opposed the pups program, and wolves who'd supported it, all curious to see what would happen. Alara stood with Ronan and the senior healers, her heart hammering. Elder Chen addressed the crowd. We are here to assess the Blackthorn Orphan Program, to determine if it aligns with pack law and tradition, or if it represents a dangerous deviation that threatens our way of life. Let's begin with the pups themselves, Elder Saskia said. Bring them forward. Lyra stepped out first, leading a group of 20 pups. They moved in formation, organized, confident, not like broken survivors, like warriors. We are the first wave, Lyra announced, her voice carrying across the field. Orphans from collapsed packs. We arrived here broken, dying, given up on by everyone. She looked directly at the elders. The shepherd didn't give up on us. She gave us space to grieve, to heal, to find our strength again. The pups behind her shifted in perfect synchronization, becoming a pack of wolves. Then they demonstrated combat forms, pack hunting strategies, coordinated movements that would make any warrior proud. Elder Mordecai's expression was unreadable. When the first wave finished, Flint led the second. We are pups who'd lost the ability to shift, who were considered beyond help. His group demonstrated their transformation, smooth and controlled. Wave after wave followed. Pups who'd been silent learned to speak. Pups who'd been feral learned to integrate. Pups who'd been dying learned to thrive. 400 pups, all demonstrating what compassion and patience could build. When the last group finished, silence blanketed the field. Then Elder Saskia stood. Impressive, very impressive. She looked at Alara. You've accomplished something I wouldn't have thought possible. These pups are healthy, strong, well-trained. But are they loyal, Elder Mordecai challenged, to Blackthorn or to the packs they came from? Lyra stepped forward again. My original pack abandoned me, left me to die because they couldn't afford another mouth to feed. Her voice was steady. Blackthorn took me in. Alara saved my life. This is my pack now. This is my home. And if your original pack called you back, Elder Mordecai pressed, demanded your return, I'd refuse. Lyra's chin lifted. I don't owe loyalty to wolves who threw me away. Murmurs rippled through the watching crowd. Other pups stepped forward, echoing Lyra's sentiment. They'd found new families here, new purposes, new lives. They weren't going back. Elder Chen stood slowly. I have a question for the shepherd. Alara's stomach dropped. Yes, Elder? What is your ultimate goal? If you could have anything for these pups, what would it be? She could feel everyone watching, waiting for her answer. This was the moment, the one that would decide everything. I want them to have choices, Alara said. Real choices. Not forced integration into packs that don't want them. Not exile to territories that can't support them. I want them to grow strong and skilled, and then decide for themselves where they belong. Masam. She paused. Some will stay here at Blackthorn. Some will join other packs. Some might start new packs of their own. But it will be their choice. Not mine. Not yours. Theirs. You're talking about autonomy, Elder Chen said. Independence. I'm talking about dignity. Dangerous thinking, Elder Mordecai muttered. Wolves without pack structure become rogues. Threats. Or they become leaders, Alara countered. Wolves who know their own worth. Who choose loyalty instead of having it forced on them. Isn't that stronger than blind obedience? Elder Saskia smiled slightly. You're arguing for a fundamental shift in how we treat orphaned pups. For giving them power instead of demanding submission. I'm arguing that they deserve the same respect we give any other wolf. The elders exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Then Elder Chen spoke. We will deliberate. The decision will be announced by sunset. The crowd dispersed. Pups returned to their training. The elders retired to private chambers. Alara stood in the empty field, trembling. You did well, Ronan said quietly. I don't know. Mordecai looked furious. But Chen and Saskia were considering. That's more than I hoped for. The day crawled by. Alara tried to work, checking on new arrivals, helping with training, reviewing healing protocols, but her mind kept returning to the elders' deliberation. What if they said no? What if everything they'd built was destroyed? Lyra found her in the healing house, organizing supplies with shaking hands. It's going to be okay, the girl said. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Lyra took Alara's hands, stilling them, because even if they shut us down, even if they try to separate us, you taught us to fight for ourselves, to know our own worth. They can't take that away. Tears burned Alara's eyes. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. Lyra hugged her fiercely. No matter what happens, you saved us. All of us. Don't forget that. Sunset approached with agonizing slowness. When the bells finally rang, calling everyone to the Great Hall, Alara's legs barely supported her. The hall was packed. Every wolf in Blackthorn attended, plus representatives from visiting packs. The elders sat at the high table, their expressions grave. Alara stood with Ronan at the front. The pups gathered behind them. Elder Chen rose. We have reached our decision regarding the Blackthorn Orphan Program. The hall fell silent. Elder Mordecai believes this program undermines traditional pack structures, that it creates dependency and weakens our kind. Chen paused. Elder Saskia believes the program has merit but needs stricter oversight, that the pups should be evaluated for integration into existing packs rather than allowed to remain together. Alara's heart sank. They were going to shut it down. I disagree with both positions, Elder Chen continued. Hope flickered. What I see here is not weakness or dependence. I see the future of our kind. He looked directly at Alara.
These pups have survived impossible circumstances. They've healed from trauma that would break full-grown wolves. They've learned to fight, to hunt, to integrate, because someone gave them space to be broken first. He turned to address the full hall. For too long, we've treated orphaned pups as liabilities, burdens to be distributed among packs who didn't want them. The shepherd has proven a different path is possible. His voice strengthened. Therefore, the High Council officially recognizes the Blackthorn Sanctuary as a legitimate pack territory with full autonomy to continue its mission. Alara couldn't breathe. Furthermore, Elder Chen continued, we encourage other territories to establish similar programs, to learn from what has been built here. The Shepherd and Alpha King Ronin have created something that should be celebrated, not condemned. The hall erupted. Cheers, howls, pups jumping and hugging and crying with relief. Alara stood frozen, unable to process what she'd just heard. They'd won. Actually won. Ronin swept her into his arms, lifting her off her feet. You did it! We did it, she corrected, laughing and crying at the same time. The celebration lasted hours. Wolves who'd opposed the program stood silent, their arguments destroyed by the High Council's endorsement. Wolves who'd supported it celebrated openly. And the pups, the incredible, resilient, beautiful pups, danced and played and reveled in their victory. Later, much later, when the crowd had dispersed and the hall was quiet, Alara found herself alone with Ronin on the roof again. Official pack territory, she said, still trying to wrap her mind around it. That means we can govern ourselves, make our own rules. It means the sanctuary is permanent, Ronin said. A recognized safe haven for any orphaned pup who needs it. And the pups who want to stay can stay. The ones who want to leave can leave. Freedom. He pulled her close. You gave them freedom. Alara leaned against him, exhausted and exhilarated. What happens now? Now we keep building, keep healing, keep proving that compassion isn't weakness. He kissed her temple. And we do it together. Together, she agreed. In the distance, she could hear pups laughing, playing, living. A month ago, she'd been a defective wolf scraping by in a tavern. Now she was the shepherd of the Blackthorn Sanctuary, partner to an Alpha King, savior of over 400 lives, and she was just getting started. 3 months later, Alara stood at the entrance to the new expansion, a fourth building designed specifically for training advanced skills. Pups who'd mastered basic combat and hunting could now learn leadership, strategy, diplomacy. It's perfect, Lyra breathed, looking at the training equipment. Think you can handle it? Alara asked. Are you kidding? I was born for this. Lyra grinned. Besides, someone has to lead the next generation of sanctuary wolves. The next generation. The thought made Alara's chest tight with pride. Lyra and 20 other advanced pups would form the sanctuary's first official leadership cohort. They'd learn to run pack operations, mediate disputes, and represent the sanctuary to other territories. These broken, abandoned pups were becoming leaders. Alara! She turned to see a messenger approaching, a young wolf from the Western Territories. We have new arrivals, he said. 15 pups from a collapsed pack near the border. They're in bad shape. I'll be right there. It never stopped, the steady stream of orphaned pups needing help. But now, instead of overwhelming her, it filled her with purpose. She headed to the receiving area, where 15 terrified pups huddled together. The smallest one, a gray female with huge, scared eyes, reminded Alara of Ash. She knelt down. Hi there. My name's Alara. Welcome to the sanctuary. The gray pup looked at her. Are we safe here? Yes, I promise. Our pack died. Everyone died. I know, sweetheart. I know it hurts. Alara reached out slowly. But you're going to be okay. We're going to help you heal. The pup crawled into her lap and started crying. Alara held her, stroking her fur, whispering comfort. Around her, other healers moved to help the remaining pups. Lyra and the older pups offered reassurance, the sanctuary's machinery of compassion activated smoothly. This was what they'd built, a place where broken things could be whole again. That evening, Alara found Ronin in his office, reviewing expansion plans. We need more space, he said without preamble. We're at capacity again. We're always at capacity. She sat on his desk, smiling.
It's a good problem to have. Is it? Sometimes I wonder if we're taking on too much. We're taking on exactly what we can handle. She leaned down and kissed him. Trust the process. He pulled her into his lap. I trust you. Good, because I have news. Oh. The Eastern Territories want to establish their own sanctuary. They've asked me to help train their staff. Ronan's eyes widened. You're leaving? Just for a few weeks. To set up the program and train the initial team. She cupped his face. Then I'm coming home. This is my home. You're my home. He kissed her again, deeper this time. I love you. I love you too. A knock interrupted them. Garrett poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Elder Chen is here. He wants to speak with both of you. They found the elder in the Great Hall, looking around with obvious approval. The sanctuary continues to impress, he said. I've been recommending your model to councils across the territories. We're honored, Elder, Ronan said formally. I have a proposal. Chen turned to Alara. The High Council wants to establish a network of sanctuaries, safe havens in every major territory, all following your methods. He paused. We'd like you to oversee the network, become the official shepherd of the Northern Territories. Alara stared. That's, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Chen urged. You've proven this works. Now help us spread it everywhere. She looked at Ronan, who nodded encouragingly. I'll do it, she said. On one condition. Which is? The pups always have choice, always have autonomy. We're not building prisons, we're building sanctuaries. Agreed. Chen smiled. You've changed everything, Shepherd. The whole Northern Territories will be better for it. After he left, Alara stood in the Great Hall, trying to process. Shepherd of the Northern Territories. The girl who'd been exiled and called defective was now overseeing a network of sanctuaries that would save thousands of lives. How does it feel? Ronan asked. Surreal, terrifying, perfect. She turned to him. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Yes, you could have. You just would have done it somewhere else. He took her hands. But I'm glad you did it here, with me. Me too. They stood together in the hall where the High Council had declared their victory, where everything had changed. What do you think the future holds? Alara asked. More pups, more sanctuaries, more healing. Ronan smiled. And us, together, building something that matters. Together, she agreed. 1 year later, Alara stood on a hill overlooking the Blackthorn Sanctuary. 5 buildings now housed over 600 pups. Training fields stretched across the valley. Gardens provided fresh food. A school taught reading, writing, and history alongside combat and survival skills. What had started as desperate improvisation had become an institution, and it was spreading. 12 sanctuaries now operated across the Northern Territories, all following the model Alara had developed. Hundreds more pups were healing, surviving, thriving. She felt Ronan's arms wrap around her from behind. Reminds me of the first time I saw this place, she said. I was so scared, so sure I was going to fail. Look at it now. She did. The sanctuary bustled with life. Pups played in the courtyard. Healers tended gardens. Warriors trained the next generation. And standing in the center of it all, directing a group of new arrivals, was Lyra. No longer a broken pup, but a confident young woman who'd taken on the role of assistant shepherd. She's going to run this place someday, Alara said. Probably. She learned from the best. Movement caught her eye. A familiar figure approached, her brother, who'd started visiting regularly after their father's death 6 months ago. He'd brought his mate and their newborn pup to live at the sanctuary, wanting his child to grow up somewhere that valued compassion over strength. Alara, he waved. Dinner's almost ready. Coming! She and Ronan walked down the hill together, hand in hand. The great hall was full of life. Pups of all ages ate together, laughing and talking. Healers shared stories. Warriors demonstrated techniques. Family. Not by blood, not by tradition, but by choice. Alara looked around at the faces. Wolves who'd been broken and rebuilt stronger. Who'd found hope when there was none. Who'd survived because someone gave them a chance. This was her pack, her home.
her purpose. She'd been called defective, worthless, weak. She'd proven every one of those labels wrong, not by becoming what they wanted, but by being exactly who she was, a shepherd for the forgotten, a voice for the broken, a light in the darkness. Lyra raised her cup. A toast to the shepherd who saved us all. To Alara, the hall shouted. Alara's eyes filled with tears. Happy ones, Ronan squeezed her hand. You okay? Better than okay. She looked at him, at Lyra, at her brother, at the hundreds of pups who'd found sanctuary. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The shepherd of the Northern Territories. No, she smiled. Just Alara, who happens to give a damn about broken things. He kissed her, sweet and sure. Best thing that ever happened to me. Me too. Outside, the sun set over the sanctuary, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new pups who needed saving, new sanctuaries to establish. But tonight, Alara sat with her family, chosen and beloved, and celebrated. She'd been the girl no one wanted. Now she was the woman everyone needed, and she'd earned every bit of it. The defective wolf had become a legend, the shepherd who changed the world. The end.